there are so many groups and individuals who are feeling marginalized and afraid. On a daily basis, we are told who matters in this country, in this world, who doesn't matter, how you have to be, look, feel, talk, the color of your skin that matters. I think there's an assault on this message of who really does matter and who doesn't. And one of the great things about this, the philosophy that I hold in this marathon, is you matter because you're you, because you're a human being, regardless of race, religion, identity, gender affiliation, anything. You matter. You matter because you are a human being.
Welcome back to the Sparks of Gratitude podcast, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today we have a special guest with us, Cheryl Rice, who has started a movement called the You Matter Marathon, among many other interesting things in her life, but 2 simple words that can change the world. And so we're going to talk about that, among other things, and we're grateful to have you here. So Cheryl, welcome to the conversation.
It's lovely to be here, Randy. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I want to explain a little bit about how I met Cheryl before we get started. And then really after that, I think I just want to turn Cheryl loose and let you give everybody all the words of wisdom that they need. But if our listeners remember, a while ago, I had a guy named Brad Aronson on the podcast, and here's the book that he wrote. And, I'm showing up here. It's called Humankind, Changing the World One Small Act at a Time. And I recommend this book for anybody. So Humankind, One Small Act at a Time by Brad Aronson. Look it up. But what's beautiful in here is in chapter 5, this is a chapter called Word Power. And in this chapter, he has a segment called 2 Little Words and shares that no one is more familiar with the power of words than my friend Cheryl Rice. And then he tells a story. And so Cheryl, I would like you to tell that story of where this idea of You Matter Marathon came from.
Yes, I'd be delighted to tell the story. And I want to just let your listeners know right now that no running required. So it's the You Matter Marathon, but as you'll see in a moment, there's no running required. And I say it's the most fundamentally fun, easy marathon you'll ever do with profound impacts, and you don't have to lace up your running shoes. So how did this start? It started actually back in 2016, Randy, when I had been given a card with only the words "You Matter" on it. And I was so touched. I truly felt like I had been hugged in my heart. And I got some cards with the words "You Matter" on them, and I started sharing them. And I noticed that people were so incredibly touched. I was amazed at the impact, but I was not being very brave, to be honest. At first, I just gave them to family and friends. And it wasn't until I was standing behind a woman in the checkout line of my local grocery store when I overheard her tell the cashier she was going through a really hard time. She said her husband had just gotten laid off and her son was battling addiction. And she said she wasn't sure she'd make it through the holidays. And I overheard this and I kind of froze. I wanted to help, but I didn't know how. And I thought, should I pay for her groceries? Should I offer to help her husband find a job? I didn't know what to do. So she left. And then I checked out. And it wasn't until we were both in the parking lot returning our carts that I summoned my courage and I went up to her and I said, I couldn't help it over here. You're going through a really hard time right now. I just want to give you something. And I gave her a card with just these words on it, "You Matter." And she started to cry. And she asked if we could hug. And she said, "You have no idea what this means to me." I went back to my car and I started to cry, Randy. I was so moved. And it was then that I thought to myself, I cannot be the only person having this experience, that I wanted other people to feel this, what I was feeling. That kind of soul to soul, person to person, human to human connection. And so as luck would have it, I was finishing up a certificate program in applied positive psychology. And we needed to do a capstone project. And I was going to do something on leadership and coaching because I'm a leadership coach and positive psychology and coaching. And instead, I thought, no. I'm going to create an opportunity for other people to share this message. And I called it the You Matter Marathon And I wanted to devote the month of November to inspiring people to give out 1 card a day, 1 Humana card a day for the month of November. And I decided to make this as easy as possible for people to participate, that I would mail them 30 cards for free, no matter where they were, which turned my dining room into a fulfillment center in many, many ways. And so that is my cat. But what happened was, I was hoping we would get maybe, 500 people to do this. And I thought, if I have friends and friends of friends, we'll get 500 people to give out maybe 30,000 cards. Well, Randy, it took off. And that first year, which we were only doing this in 1 month, we ended up in 14 countries. And I had, I think, over 30,000 people participate. And the magic, I call it the You Matter magic, was born. And now we're celebrating our 10th year, 10 year giving out cards. We're in 100 countries, and it's been life-changing on so many levels. But that is the origin story. And I'd give anything to find this woman and know how she's doing, and let her know what her moment of vulnerability and honesty, what it inspired, because it's inspired a lot.
Hey there, everyone. Did you know that beyond hosting the Sparks of Gratitude podcast, I am also an estate planning attorney, and I love gratitude, and my law firm is proud to sponsor this video. Since 2010, in my law practice, I have designed and delivered customized peace of mind with sophisticated estate planning made easy. So whether you need foundational estate planning, including revocable trusts, wills, powers of attorney, and healthcare directives, which is what most people need, or you might need advanced strategies such as irrevocable trust for asset protection or advanced estate tax planning, I am here to guide you every step of the way. Because at the end of the day, your peace of mind is my peace of mind. You can visit randallsparks.com and I can get started helping you plan for the future today. Now back to our podcast. Well, so what I hear from that origin story, and I'd like to ask you in a moment, what preceded that in your life, because there was something building a little bit at a time that prepared you to be ready in that moment to accept this call. So I'm very interested in that, but also just observing that there were 2 people whose lives were changed in that moment.
Yes.
And this is an interesting phenomenon. And so I'd like to see if you could share, how are you observing? Well, one, could you share how those 2 lives were changed? What changed in your life? And you noticed her response was she wanted to hold you, she wanted to hug you, she was in tears, that you had no idea how important and how much that meant to her. And so it was very clearly extremely impactful to her at the moment. And you don't know what happened after that, but you do know what happened to you.
Yes.
And so what changed in you from that moment? What did that feel like?
Yes.
And now 10 years later,
Yes.
what's happened?
Well, I will say, I will share what changed in me, which is a lot. And I think what I learned in that moment is what changed for her. I couldn't offer her money or get her husband a job or cure her son of addiction. But what I did seem to be even more impactful, Randy, which was acknowledge her humanity and her suffering in that moment. She felt seen. And I think so many of us walk around not feeling seen or heard or valued. And to have that come from a stranger who didn't know her, don't know her first name, anything about her other than what I described, I think that was medicine for her. And I think what changed for her is a sense of, I'm not alone, that somebody sees me and values me in this moment, and reached out with compassion. So, I mean, it just brought her to tears, right then and there in the parking lot. And so what changed for me, just even beyond the catalyst that moment was, to say, I want to do something more. I mean, I think the backstory, and this connects to the backstory, I think the whole reason that I even decided to share cards after one was given to me was because it's something I've questioned. I think most people at some time in their life question, do I matter? Do I matter? And I think that question was unconsciously in my being. Do I really matter? For a whole lot of reasons that we can talk about perhaps a little bit later. And so that's why the message resonated with me when I received a card, and just being somebody who so much cares about other people without sounding corny about it, I really believe this is the most essential message of our times. So what changed in me in that parking lot was a sense of the potency and that I had efficacy. I could do something. There's so many problems, Randy, I can't do anything about. But this I can do. This I can do. This I can invite other people to do. And then it becomes we. So what changed in me was a recognition that I have more power than I think. What changed in me was a belief that I'm not the only one who needs to be reminded that they matter. And what changed in me was I'm going to become a social entrepreneur, which I had no idea what that meant or how to do it, and build a global movement. And that was not the ambition at the time. The ambition was, let me just see if I can get some friends and family to do this for 1 month out of the year. And now we're every month for 10 years. And then what's changed is just a deepening and deepening and deepening regard and respect for the power and essential nature of this message right now, the giving and receiving, which is, it's kind of like an infinity sign. You can't tell what's giving and receiving. When I tell you, you matter, I'm enhancing my own significance. It's beautiful. It is a virtuous cycle and it's necessary. I think this is the most essential message of our time. So that has changed in me. I did not know that before. I did not know that. And now I do. I did not know what I was capable of. And now I know a little bit more about that. And I did not know how many people are suffering, deeply suffering, because they don't know that they matter. And I know that when people don't know they matter, not good things happen. They harm other people or themselves. And there's just so much data, research, anecdotally and otherwise, that supports that. So I apologize if that was a little long-winded. You can tell that these things just kind of all marinate together for me, this journey.
Well, it's all deeply personal, I can tell, and the significance that you see. You repeated more than once that phrase that this is the most essential message of our time.
Mhm.
And I think about this idea. I I often recite this on the podcast or in the introduction to the podcast. I say, gratitude changes lives and it saves lives.
Mm.
It doesn't just change lives, but it saves
Mhm.
lives. And I believe that deeply. It's changed my life. I've seen, I've heard other examples of where it literally saved people's lives. This shift that they take through, well, in essence, I think that these are kind of two sides of the same coin of feeling gratitude and value and purpose, and meaning. Like all of this is wrapped up into the same mindset. And so I'd like to hear maybe some of your thoughts where you've studied positive psychology. I know that there's an institute out of Stanford. I don't remember exactly what it's called, the Center for Altruistic Studies or something
Mhm.
on those
Mhm.
lines. And I've shared this on the podcast before. Someone shared it with me. But there was a study that they had done that talks about what actually happens in the human brain when somebody performs an act of compassion or
Mm.
kindness. And there's a measurable dose of chemicals that are released that are all the good ones, all the positive. And so if
Mhm.
we think of the dose, the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, this dose of chemicals is released, which helps people feel good, positive, happy,
Yes.
joyful, like, right? And but it's not just in the recipient. And so I'm imagining this act of compassion that you gave to this
Yes.
anonymous woman in a parking lot at a grocery
Yes.
store. When you gave that to her, she received that. But here's what's cool about this study is it's not just the receiver of that act of sincere
Right.
kindness or compassion, it's the giver as
Yeah.
well. And so where you said this infinity symbol
Yeah.
of, who's giving, who's receiving, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Here's what's unique as well is a third party observer that's unrelated to the experience. When they see that, they have the exact same response in their brain.
That's so
And so
powerful.
So that's how big this ripple can be
Yes.
is yes, not only do you matter, but in the fact that you are giving out these cards, the ripple effect is so massive where one tiny thing, this is the stone in the pond,
Yes.
that the ripple expands. I mean, I just smile and say, "Oh, I'm gonna send out 30 cards for this one time for this month of November, and maybe some friends will join." 14 countries in year
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And now, how many You Matter cards have been given out since then?
Yeah. We'll never know the real answer to that because sometimes we don't know if I give you a card and then you pass it to someone along. We don't know, but we're guesstimating a low conservative estimate is over 3 million right now in 100 countries. And I'd have to go to the website to see how many participants we have, but a lot. Maybe I don't want to get it wrong, but I know we have, I think, over 50,000 people participated. It's such a feel good. And to your point, it is contagious. And that's why doing this in community is so important. And every week we share a You Matter story with our community because some people love the stories as much as they love the sharing cards. And to your point, it's contagion and it's elevation. I think that's one of the positive psychology terms is we are elevated. We're morally elevated when we see kind acts. When we see people doing heroic things, kind things, it inspires awe. It moves us. And I think we need these positive, contagious elements in our lives and to know that they're accessible, Randy. I think there's a lot of helplessness and dare I say hopelessness floating around right now. Understandably, heaviness. I'm not immune from it. I'm not immune from it at all, which is another reason I so gravitate to this because it gives me something to do every day that doesn't take a lot of resources, time, money. It just takes an intention. And because I've had so much evidence build up about the power of this, I know it's a fail proof. It always works. It always works, whether I'm giving a card face to face or leaving a card anonymously, putting one in a library book. I mean, I could give you a lot of examples of where one might leave a card for someone to find just serendipitously, which is beautiful. It's just, it never fails to move me. And it is. Is that selfish? I'll take it because it motivates me to do it more, to give more cards, to never have a day in my life where I don't give a card to someone. And to see that this is no longer, it's so not about me now. This is out into the world. And people tell me every day how they're using cards, how they're benefiting people, how they're being moved by the experience, by how they're teaching their children, giving cards to their kids, their classrooms. It goes on. And it's tangible and it matters. I don't mean to say that in a punny way, but it matters that we do this for so many reasons. It feels good. It does good time and time again.
So you say that people love the stories where you share some of these You Matter stories. I would love to hear some of those. If you could share some of these, I mean, you've got thousands of examples of cards. I mean, millions of cards have been distributed. I mean, up to 3 million of them, maybe more.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm sure you've got a lot of feedback from the impact of this
Yes.
and stories. And so, what are some of the stories that you've heard that you can share
Yeah. I'll
with
share
people?
just a few. One, this was from our first year, Randy. This woman wrote to me and she said that her son was released from prison and they were estranged. And he was living in a halfway house and she wasn't sure she could repair their relationship. So when she met him after his release in the halfway house for the first time, she gave him a You Matter card and he started to cry. And this was her way of reestablishing connection with him. And he was so touched. He said that this is what he'd been waiting his whole life to hear. And he asked if she had more cards that he could give to the people in the halfway house. And he said, "I'm not the only one who needs this, Mom." And she credited this card as something, as a tangible way for her to reestablish connection. And not just that was our first year. And I'm like, and I said to our very small and wonderful team at the time, I said, if this is the only reason we did this year, it was worth it. Just from that one story. That was enough for me. Somebody from Australia worked in a pharmacy. And what they did is, yes, they worked in a pharmacy in Australia and they started sharing the cards to their customers who they knew were caregivers for terminally ill people. And when they were filling the prescriptions, they put a card in for the person who was ill and also one for the caregiver. And the pharmacist said that they felt like that was the real medicine in what they were doing was giving a You Matter card along with the drugs. And I just thought, this is from Australia. Like that, if you had told me, Randy, this is what my life would have been, a part of my life anyway, in 2015, that I'd be hearing a story from a pharmacist in Australia, I wouldn't have believed it. Another story, this one happened to me. I was in line. It was during the holidays. After the holidays, I was in a long line at a store in the mall, and I was noticing the cashier was so patient and courteous, and people were not being really pleasant to her. And I just thought, this woman is going to get a You Matter card when I get up to the cashier. So we did her transaction. I was returning something, and I gave her a card. And I have a picture of this. Her name was Gabe. She literally put the card on her heart and her hand over her mouth. Like she couldn't believe it. And she teared up, but I had to go because there was a long line and I didn't want to hold her up. But I was so curious about what happened to her because it was so visceral. I went back the next day just hoping that she was working, and she was. And I pulled her aside and I said, "Do you remember me from yesterday?" She said, "I'll never forget you." And I said, "I'm curious, like what was happening?" And she said, "I just felt like so incredibly seen. And this holiday season has been so stressful." And she said, she asked me if I could give her another card to give so she could give it to our manager. And she said, "My manager will give me money at the end of the month for food if I run out." And she wanted to give her manager a You Matter card. So again, Randy, I'm like, you never know what people are dealing with. And again, the generosity, her thought was, how can I pay this forward for my manager who gives me money when I don't have enough money to feed myself at the end of the month? Another story, we have had people, teachers and people in clubs tell me that there was a suicide, a middle school student. And what they did to honor, one of the things they did was they doubled down on this message, and they got cards for their whole school. And they had each student get 3 cards, and they were determined to never let this happen again in their community. Gets me choked up that they encouraged the students to write something on the back of the card and make sure it wasn't done as like, you have to give these all out today. It was like, we want you to have these cards, and we trust that you will know when and who to give this message to. And they did that in honor of somebody who they lost. So, whew. And then, yeah. So those are just a few stories I could go on. And
I could just sit here and mute my microphone and listen to you tell these stories for the rest of the time. I think that would probably be the most valuable use of our time. So I love it. And that must be the most gratifying support to keep going, because I imagine for you that this mission you're on, your life is not what you thought it would be. This isn't what, and you shared with me in a previous conversation that you kind of thought life was looking like this, and you were moving, doing these things, and and in coaching in school and your positive psychology, and this wasn't on the program. I guess it wasn't off the program either. Just you weren't aware that life would look like it looks now. And it feels to me like this is now a calling that you've accepted, and you're unable to stop because you're the one that's taken up this mantle, and you are running this marathon.
I'm running this marathon year after year, and it's a passion project. It's so much aligned with my values, and every year I say this, like, now more than ever we need this message. And I'm almost embarrassed to say that I still need to keep saying that, now more than ever, but it's true. Now more than ever, there are so many groups and individuals who are feeling marginalized and afraid. And on a daily basis, we are told who matters in this country, in this world, who doesn't matter, how you have to be, look, feel, talk, the color of your skin that matters. I mean, I think there's an assault on this message of who really does matter and who doesn't. And one of the great things about this, the philosophy that I hold in this marathon, is you matter because you're you, full stop, because you're a human being, regardless of race, religion, identity, gender affiliation, anything, political affiliation, all of it. Not interested. You matter. You matter because you are a human being. And we used to have ways, I believe way back when, where we knew, Randy, we were interdependent. We knew we needed each other for our own livelihood, well-being. And now we've really kind of calcified into such a me culture where we think that it's me versus you. It's me and my tribe versus you and your tribe. And nothing could be further from the truth. So to me, this has also become a civic responsibility of mine and those who join me. Again, it's so much bigger than me right now, 100 countries of people who want to see in this holistic way, this holistic, truthful, humanitarian way. The truth of the matter is we are interdependent. We need each other. I mean, there is no me without you. There is no me without you. It's just, it's not complicated to me, but it's become very muddied.
I love that idea of, we, not me. And you very intentionally, I believe, used the term interdependent several times. I mean, Stephen R. Covey talks about, well, there's codependency and there's independency, but then there's interdependency, right? I have another phrase that my friend has shared with me is like, well, we can't do this alone, but nobody's going to do it for us. And so that to me is kind of a way I think about, well, I'm not fully independent, but I'm also not fully codependent. It's like I need my community, I need my spouse, I need my family, I need my friends, I need like somehow we are contributing to the good and meaning and growth and purpose that we perform in this life, right? And again, I can't do it alone, and nobody's going to do it for me, right? So I love that idea, and that everybody matters no matter who you are. So I've got a question for you though, because this is a labor of love, as is this podcast for me. I mean, I have a profession. I work all day. And there are days, even in the things that I'm passionate about that are extremely meaningful to me, which, that is being a good husband, being a good father, being a good sibling child, being a good friend, being a good attorney for my
Mhm.
clients. I mean, that's my day job. Um, and I think these are meaningful pursuits. I really believe that even in my profession, I'm delivering peace of mind to people through what I do,
Yes.
as a trust and estate attorney. And some days I am just energized about it. And there's other days where I'm like, I just got to get through the day. I just got to keep moving. Right. And the same is true with, I mean, I've never spoken to a single person who, when I talk about gratitude and how it's meaningful to me, and I think it changes people's lives, nobody says, yeah, I'm not so sure. Right.
Right.
I mean, people get it. They're like, yes, kindness. Yes,
Yes.
gratitude. Yes, you matter, you value. Like, it just resonates. People just know that it has value and it's good.
Yes.
Even with that, yeah, it's hard. It's a labor of love. Sometimes I'm super motivated about it, and
Yes.
sometimes I'm like, "Oh, man, am I gonna keep doing this podcast?" I'm like,
Right.
"I'm tired. It's a lot
Yes.
of work, time, money," and then I'm like, "Well, of course I am.
Yeah.
Of course I am."
Yeah.
Right? And so I wanna ask you, in this labor of love that you have, what are the challenges that you face personally, in these ups and downs, and how do you overcome them?
Well, just like you, Randy, I have a professional life too. I'm a leadership coach and speaker and author. And so I have a full practice, which I love. And my practice has a lot of meaning to me, working primarily with women, helping them be leaders in their own lives. So I'm very grateful for that. So it is juggling because that's my livelihood, and my heart is in my work as well. So it's juggling just responsibilities as a challenge. And frankly, this is the You Matter Marathon is self-funded right now. So there was a time I spent a lot of time trying to find corporate sponsors, which is not my forte. I was proud. I did it. I achieved some goals and very grateful to some sponsors. But at some point, it just became so uncomfortable for me. It's not easy for me to ask for money that I decided to stop. So that means that I'm responsible for these free cards, getting them into the hands of people who want them and the cost of that.
And so can I kind of repeat that? When
Yeah.
you say self-funded, Cheryl Rice
Yes.
pays for all of the production and shipping of all of these You Matter cards
Yes.
all over the world,
Yes.
that's out of your pocket
Yes.
so that people can give these to everybody. I just
Yeah.
want people to hear that
Yeah.
it matters so much to you that that's what you've been doing.
Yes. Yes. Now, over the 10 years, we have had some corporate sponsorships. We do ask our community to give funds from time to time, but I would say 90% of the finances come from family, and that just that's okay. I mean, I believe me, I'm eating food, and I have a very lovely life, and I'm grateful to be able to do that. It does stress me out sometimes, but you know, we have to get real, Randy. I mean, you only have I feel like I have one life, and I want to lead it in a way that I can be proud of at the end of the day, at the end of every day, the days as they go by, and at the end of my life. So, really, like, I'm going to argue with myself over funding something that I know has so much potency and purpose. It's a blessing. I consider it a blessing. But it is a reality. I mean, no, very few people have unlimited funds. So I'm somewhere between. I'm not impoverished, but I don't have unlimited funds. But I'm choosing very consciously to do something that I now have so much evidence. Like you said, how can I not do it? Because I know the impact it has. And I know that the world is hurting. It's not the world. People are hurting. People are hurting. So if this can be even an infinitesimal part of the solution, how can I not be participating in it? So if there isn't anyone listening who's interested in being part of the movement and being a sponsor, we love on our sponsors very heavily, and we'll get the word out. But yeah, so we're always open to it, but I'm not dependent on it.
Okay, so I was gonna ask that next. I'm gonna say, how can people participate? Number one, I don't wanna wait till the very end of this.
Yeah.
So I would love for anybody listening to change the world.
Yes,
You can change the world.
you can.
And how do they get some You Matter cards so they can give these out?
Couldn't be simpler. Go to youmattermarathon.org, one word, youmattermarathon.org, and you'll see the sign up page there's a homepage and it says sign up, and you sign up, and we send you 10 cards now. So it's all year round. It's not just in November. Instead of giving out 30, we give out 10. We found 30 was too many for some people. They felt overwhelmed by the responsibility. Some people said they didn't know 30 people. So now it's 10 cards once a year. So people sign up every year if they choose. We have some people who do this yearly while supplies last. So we do have a limit every year on how many card packs we can give. We also have a store where people can buy cards. They're incredibly reasonably priced. We barely make any money on it because, again, I want to make it accessible. So we have a store online. If you want more than 10 cards, you can buy them. We even have a card template so you can print out your own cards. You don't have to pay. We even have a digital card, Randy. So our goal is just to get the message out and give people as many ways as possible to share the message. I think an important factor I want people to know, there's nothing on the back of the cards. It's blank. And I've had so many marketing people tell me, "Oh, you have to put a QR code, you have to put your website." And this is something I'd stay true to myself on, because if I put anything on the back, even a QR code to our website, it becomes a marketing piece. Immediately people think, what's that? And you know what happens? And you'll find this, Randy, when you give a card, the first thing people do unconsciously is they turn it over. They're primed to look for the catch. And I am so proud of this because it just goes to the ethic of this. There is no catch. This is it. You matter, full stop. I don't need you to participate in the marathon. I just want you to get the message. Keep the card, feel it, believe it. That's all. That's all. I'm looking for that moment, that connection. So nothing on the back of the card. It couldn't be simpler. In fact, the first card that I received was red and white, and it was lovely, but I felt it was provocative. This is why our card is white with black lettering. It's generic. It's as simple as possible. They do come in Spanish to Importas, so you can order them in Spanish as well. I did, yeah. I'll leave it at that. So that's how you can get involved, youmattermarathon.org. If you'd like to contribute, there's a way to donate on our website. But mostly I just want people to feel this. I want people to feel it. That's the best.
Well, you have a lot of evidence that they do. And I'd love to hear more stories about it. I am curious. Now I kind of want to go back in time a little bit. I
Mhm.
have some different questions for you,
Great.
which is, something in the trajectory of your life led you to where you are now or where you were 9 years ago when this started, 10 years ago when this started. And I really believe that, a younger version of me, the life that I lived before now,
Uh-huh.
prepared me to to accept the challenge of the next moment that arrives,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes I'm not prepared to hear a message. Sometimes I'm not prepared to listen to the call, right? But
Yeah.
eventually I am, and I can accept that, or I can, learn that lesson or take that fork in the road and so on. And so maybe what impactful moments or pivot points were there in your life that were meaningful that you believe prepared you for that moment to hand out a You Matter card?
Well, I think, as I alluded to before, I didn't always know that I mattered. And when I was growing up, I got some messages, which I don't think I'm the only one who gets these messages. I need to apologize. As I told you before we started recording, I got 2 kittens on Friday, Randy, and they're a little rammy right now. So
They're
my
climbing
kittens
all over.
mattered. So they're
I love
climbing all
it.
over me.
We've got extra guests, they can join the show.
Maggie and Max, yes. But I got messages, or I internalized messages that said I only mattered if I was thin enough. I only mattered if I put everybody else's needs in front of mine. I only mattered if I got straight A's. I there were some really high standards that I internalized that made me believe I didn't matter just because I was me, or I didn't matter if I was a size 4 or 6, or I didn't matter if I was angry. And I think that cost me a lot. And so the notion that I could just matter, just not because I had achieved anything remarkable, just because I was Cheryl, just because, that moved me, that I was like, "Whoa, there's another way to appreciate myself first. There's another way to appreciate myself." So that is one of the things that I think prepared me, was knowing what it's like to question this deeply, knowing what it's like to question my worthiness. I got married when I was 41. So there were a lot of years where I wanted to be married and question, like, I must not matter. I'm not married. I don't have children yet. There's always a reason to kind of think that I was a misfit. I was in the land of misfit toys. And that's what's coming to mind right now. I can't think of other pivotal moments. It's just, I've always cared about other people feeling like they matter before I even knew about the marathon. Even from a young age, I went to summer camp. I was deeply homesick. And I found that one of the things that helped me survive my homesickness, Randy, was helping other campers who were homesick. Like I just naturally empathized to people. I thought I was going to be a psychologist before I moved into coaching. So putting myself in the shoes of others isn't hard for me. And wanting to ease the suffering of others isn't hard for me. Where I've struggled more is learning how to ease my own suffering, and that's been its own journey. So I often have to remind myself, that's why I keep the card here by my desk, at my desk. We all need to be reminded. We all need to be reminded, no matter what, no matter how much we achieve. We have days where we're just like, really? Really? Do I make a difference? Would it matter if I showed up tomorrow at work for my family? Would anybody notice? And I just think it's our responsibility to remind each other, and ideally remind ourselves. But people tell me they keep these in their wallets, they put them on their bathroom mirror. It's not a one and done. I wish I could say it were that simple. Otherwise, I would just be getting billboards that people pass all over the highways. You matter. Okay, done. It's not like that. It's not like that. It's a practice. It's a practice. I have to practice. And one of the ways I practice is by giving the message. But then there are other ways that I need to learn how to reinforce this message with myself.
I love how you said how you would yourself come out of that homesickness, for example. And I mean, I think we could compare this across the board with anytime I'm feeling less valuable or anytime I'm struggling. you went outside yourself to serve and help another, right? And you forgot about yourself and you went and served somebody else to uplift them. And the magic that happens in that experience is, oh, wouldn't you know it, that lifts you up as well. I mean, it's such an interesting phenomenon that you talked about earlier is in this connected time that we live in, we're so disconnected and everything is about me, me, right? And I have more opportunity for comparison and expectation and judgment. And it's not necessarily judgment from the outside in. It's my judgment of myself as I look outside at,
Yeah.
at everything out there. And so I'm the one judging myself against all of that.
Yes.
And so now I am not good enough. I'm not handsome enough. I don't have, a full head of hair. I don't have, I mean, fill in everything that I could
Right.
compare myself against somebody else, and I'm not good enough. I don't matter. Like this sense of imposter syndrome and value, and I'm not meeting expectations. And so all of that eats away. And so this is where I want to kind of come back. I've studied positive psychology as well, not to the extent you have, but that this idea of comparison being the thief of joy
Yes.
and expectation, being related to that, where most of the time I have an expectation of what something should look like, what I should look like, what I should be like, what happiness looks like. But where did that come from? I'm manufacturing some arbitrary standard in my head of this is what it's supposed to look like and feel like. And then when it doesn't, oh, I'm not good enough, or life isn't good enough, or life wasn't supposed to be like this. My life was supposed to feel different than it does. My relationship is, and all of that. If I'm honest with myself and I really dig in, I'm like, where did that come from? It's all a story in my own head. And if I can just peel all that stuff away and then believe that, oh, I matter no matter what. I
Right.
matter, period, end of sentence. That's why I also love your card, because it's that. No conditions. You matter, period.
Right.
And so I'd love to kind of hear about what drove you, or what inspired you to lean into studying positive psychology. And I have some questions about that as well.
Yeah, well, that's again, feels very innate to me to focus on what's working. And positive psychology is the science of human flourishing. Life, what makes people thrive? Traditional psychology studies when life is south of neutral. When we're really having problems with mental illness, addiction, trauma, when things really aren't working in our lives and we need and deserve help with that. And positive psychology is curious about the factors that contribute to well being and flourishing and thriving. And so, as a leadership coach, that is very much aligned with what I try to do every day with my clients, especially I work a lot with women and they struggle with the inner critic, that voice in their head that tells them they're an imposter or not enough. And so we need some counter programming. And I'm just going back to what you said before. I think there are a lot of reasons we come by that honestly, Randy. And I think media is one of them. I mean, the media, and now with social media, we're inundated with messages about what a beauty standard is, what a success standard is. And we naturally compare. And we compare because there is some, what's the word I'm looking for? Survival mechanism. We think we need to know our standing to know if we're going to belong in our communities, to know that we can keep up with communities. So there's something hardwired, I think, that tends to have us compare. And yet, at the same time, it can also lead to some illness in us. And so I say, if you're going to compare up, look at the people who aren't, don't have as much as you, and compare yourself to the version of yourself that you were last week or last year, which is something that I really enjoy helping my clients do. Just compare yourself to, you want to run, you want to be able to run a 5K. Well, start running 5 minutes. And then in 3 months, you'll see you're comparing yourself to your earlier version of a couch potato, and you're going to make yourself very proud. So positive psychology for me as a coach gives me incredible resources because there's efficacy and research behind them. It's not just telling people, and because you're an expert in gratitude. That's one of the foundational, aspects, principles in positive psychology where there's a ton of research. It's not just, oh, do this because it's something that your grandmother may have said. No, do this because research tells us that when we pay attention to what's working in our lives, we are more resilient. We feel better and we do better. And we lift others around us. So there's a lot of research. So that's what drew me to it is, yes, I want some of that. I want to thrive in my life and I want to help my clients do so as well in rigorous ways. I want to have some evidence for the suggestions that might come up in a coaching session.
Okay, I love that you went there. So the genesis of this podcast actually 15 years ago when my wife and I would visit with a therapist. He's a positive psychologist. I mean, he wrote a book called Pathological Positivity, and
Oh.
so he studied this, and I've read a lot in positive psychology. I actually took a course through him to become what's called a certified positivity practitioner. And a lot of people that go through that program are actually coaches. And they implement these tools and training and what they do. So I was kind of coming around imagining that that's why you did it as well. But just yesterday, I received a text message from a friend who listened to another episode of this podcast, and he was giving me some feedback. He says, I just finished listening to that episode, and I really appreciated it. Was with someone named Jade Sterling was my guest, and she's from Australia, and she's a positivity coach, among other things. And he says, I appreciated how she got real at the end because I often see positivity as the absence of bad.
Uh-huh.
And a little fake, honestly, he says. He says, it can seem like just slapping on a smile no matter what you're feeling. What I've learned from the conversation, though, is that positivity is about empowerment, finding the space to choose and feel gratitude and elevate my response. And so I'd like to hear your response about what some people might get wrong about positivity and, what your thoughts are on what he said to me.
Yes. Well, what he said to you, I've heard before too. So I think he's got good company about that. And the last thing that I believe true positive psychology practitioners would be promoting is a single focus on just feeling good, just all the time, like happyology. And I think that is harmful. And now it even has a term, right? Toxic positivity, which we know is not helpful. Is not helpful. So to me, positivity in just healthy psychology in one's life is embracing all of it, is learning how to have familiarity, comfort, and acceptance of our range of feelings and emotions, for instance. That gets to being a whole human being. And I believe, and research bears this out, that every emotion, even the difficult ones, have merit and meaning and are essential for our well-being. Feeling sad, if I just talked to a friend whose actual animal is probably dying, and of course she's going to feel sorrow, and her saying she's like, I feel like crying. Well, those tears tell that's biological. It's saying socially she needs support. When we see someone tearing up, it cues us in to help them. That's adaptive. Thank goodness. If you're feeling angry, and I was taught anger is not something that a girl should feel, but now I know better, thankfully. And, that's an important emotion in my repertoire of data about often when we're angry, it's because a right of ours is being violated. If someone cuts us off in traffic, of course I'm going to be angry. They violated my right to have safety in my lane when they crossed over. So these emotions are instructive. I think it's really, really important to give a lot of latitude, spaciousness, graciousness for our entire repertoire of emotions and to learn how to use them intelligently. And that's where something like emotional intelligence comes in, learning how to recognize them, how to feel them, and how to use them constructively. We know one can be overly optimistic. We know that people who are given a negative or a challenging diagnosis, if they're overly optimistic, don't have as good health outcomes as people who are more pragmatic, right? So there's a role for pessimism. There's all of it. So if we're just one note, your friend or colleague is right that is limiting. But I believe, and the positive psychology has plenty of evidence to show, no, 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 no. We want to embrace it all and use it wisely, use the different emotions and interventions wisely and with some nuance and precision. Does that land for you in your own
Oh,
experience,
yeah,
Randy?
it lands very well because I believe, very deeply that all of our emotions are good. Some of them are uncomfortable or
Yeah,
painful
for sure.
or extremely difficult. Think of grief, these emotions that we feel, but all of them are important. All of them are messengers and gifts. And it's if we honor them and are able to process them, well, one, to acknowledge them, to feel them, but not cling to them, to,
Yeah.
to allow myself to feel and process that emotion. I mean, it's energy in motion. Let myself process that. Some take more time than others
Yes.
to process that, right? But if I hide it away and then just slap a smiley face sticker on my face and pretend that that emotion doesn't exist,
Right.
then I'm not acknowledging it. And it doesn't mean I'm not positive, right? I can acknowledge the sadness, the grief, these emotions that I must feel, and then process it. And I can continue in my life with an intentional, positive trajectory. I mean, that's the movement I have forward.
And to use whatever have to use, even the challenging experiences of grief or loss or disappointment, to make a choice to use what life gives us for our growth, not for our ease, but for our growth, for our
Right.
growth.
That's beautiful because growth never comes through what's easy. Right? And it's the all the greatest stories ever told are the hero who accepts the call to an adventure
Yeah.
and they do something beyond what they thought they could, and then they realize that they had within them more than they believed that they did. And that's what they gain. And that's through the challenge and the struggle. We all grow and grow those muscles. Okay, I have so many more questions from you, and I'm going to save something for the next time. But um one thing we can save is through this conversation about positivity and emotions and expanding ourselves to accept all of those emotions. The subtitle to a memoir that you wrote a memoir. I'm pulling it up here. You wrote, "Where Have I Been All My Life?" That's an amazing title, by the way. But it says it's a journey toward love and wholeness. And so we could go forever about this. But I think this conversation to me has led toward, well, what is wholeness?
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful timing of this question because it is in part what we were just talking about. For me, wholeness is embracing all parts of myself without judgment. It's whole. It's being a whole human being with my strengths, my struggles, my sorrows, my ambitions, whole. I feel whole. The analogy I use in the book is that homesickness that was so pervasive in my youth, I think was also an existential homesickness, Randy. So I was homesick for an abiding place of acceptance and love within myself. And that is about wholeness to me. I'm getting a message saying device is struggling to record. Are you getting that, Randy?
I'm not, but I think we'll be okay.
We'll be okay. Okay, great. So the wholeness is about embracing all parts of myself and loving what I find.
Okay, I have to tell you, my friend who I just quoted, who sent me that text message, he was actually a guest on this podcast as well a while ago. His name is Devin. And he said to me, I believe that gratitude is the highest, or he says that acceptance is the highest form of gratitude.
Hmm.
Or actually flip that. Gratitude is the highest form of acceptance. And you use those words
Did I?
where you are expanding yourself to accept yourself as you are, all parts of yourself, right? And that is what is wholeness, that you can accept all of you, right? And that's where love and I matter. That's where I can believe that I matter because I've expanded myself to have the capacity to love all of me,
Mhm.
right? And for me, when I'm able to do that for someone else, it expands my capacity to do it for myself, But really, when I can love myself and accept myself, that expands my capacity to love and have empathy and compassion for another.
Yes.
So I believe that striving for that wholeness is a noble pursuit and extremely, and that's why I love where have I been all my life and like that love and wholeness that you're accepting for yourself. So thank you so much for this conversation.
It was a gift for me, Randy. Truly, it was such a gift. I just really value you're such a great listener. I just want to say I'm sure your community knows this about you, which is why they tune in. You're such a great listener, and it's so clear your own passion for these topics and your integrity around them. So that's a gift for me. Not everybody has that. So thank you for gifting me with your curiosity, your spaciousness, and your interest, and giving me a chance to talk about something that means so much to me.
Well, it's a deep pleasure. And I want to again invite everybody to go get your You Matter cards, youmattermarathon.org. Change the world. And you're listening, you matter. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.